Most finance content tells you to cut back. Stop spending on this, stop buying that, and there is a time and place for that advice. But today, I'm going to do the opposite. There are 10 things that you should upgrade once you start making real money, specifically because of how directly they impact your mental health and your day-to-day quality of life. Now, of course, this assumes your financial foundations are already in place, you're saving, you're investing, and then you have some disposable income left over. So if that's you, this video is for you. Let's get into number 1, and that is your sleep setup. If there is one upgrade on this list with the most immediate measurable return, it is probably your sleep setup. In fact, Matthew Walker, who is a neuroscientist and author of Why We Sleep, found that sleeping less than 6 hours a night impairs your cognitive performance to a level equivalent to being legally drunk. And most people are doing this almost every single night. So I upgraded my mattress 2 years ago and genuinely could not believe the difference within the first week. Not just sleep quality, focus, mood, energy, it compounds into everything else on this list. The specific upgrades worth making are a quality mattress, a supportive pillow, blackout curtains, earplugs if you live somewhere noisy. You spend a third of your life in bed. It is the one piece of furniture that is worth spending properly on. Right, let's move on to number 2, and that is your health access. So this one looks different depending on your situation, but the principle, it's the same. Once you're earning well, it's worth spending money to make healthcare faster and easier to access. So the first thing to check is, does your employer already offer you a health insurance as a benefit? A lot of companies do actually include it in a package, so you just need to make sure you've opted in and check what it covers. If you don't have it through work, then a private health insurance policy is, in my opinion, an absolute must. Something that gets you the same day GP access, fast-tracked specialist referrals, private hospital treatment if you need it. The average NHS wait for a specialist referral is currently 18 weeks. With private insurance, that's typically days. And of course, my point isn't to completely opt out of the NHS, it is to use money to remove delays when those delays are costing you in health. Okay, right, number 3, and that is your pension. This one is specifically for my UK people. And this is essentially the equivalent of an investing upgrade. Most people who are earning well are massively underusing it. So the first concept is simple. I've covered it in my videos before. Most employers will match your pension contributions up to a certain percentage. So if you're not contributing enough to get that full match, you are turning down free money. That is it. Log into your HR system, find out what your employer's maximum match is, and just make sure you are hitting that. The second concept is less well known, and it's specifically relevant if you are earning over £100,000 or about to earn or step into that £100,000 within your overall income in the coming year. So with this, once your salary crosses that threshold, you start losing your personal allowance, which is the amount that you can earn tax-free. And for every £2 you earn over £100,000, you lose £1 of that allowance, which means your effective tax rate in that band isn't 40%, it's 60%. So the way out of this is to increase your pension contributions. Pension contributions just reduce what HMRC calls your adjusted net income. So if you're earning $110,000 and you contribute $10,000 more into your pension, you're essentially bringing yourself back down to $100,000 and then you're restoring that full personal allowance. So you haven't lost that money, it's just sitting in your pension, but you'll avoid paying 60% tax on it. So overall, you are better off. When I was in banking, this is something that was often spoken about, but I've met people who are earning over 6 figures who haven't factored this in. And it's one of the first things you need to make sure that you're aware about. Right, number 4, and that is your financial infrastructure. The biggest financial mistake people make when they start earning well is leaving money sitting in a current account doing nothing. I'm a chartered accountant. I've spent years teaching people how to manage their own money, index funds, ISAs, pensions. I genuinely believe that you can learn this yourself and you do not need to hand your money to someone else to manage it. This is what this channel is built on. But what I see constantly is people who understand the concepts, mean to get started, but just never quite do it. The money sits in that current account for months, for years, and then the whole time inflation is eroding its value. And so if you are someone who's watching this nodding along, that you have money sitting in your bank account and you're not investing it, out of everything on this entire list, this is really high up. Every month it's sitting there, you are never getting that compound interest back. I have a completely free investing workshop. I'll link it below and it goes through exactly where to start and everything you need to know in a lot more detail. It's happening this Sunday. So if that is you, please go and watch it before you do anything else on this list. You just need to make sure that your money is working as hard as you are. Right, number 5, and that is your home environment. I had a broken door handle in my flat for over a year and I just lived with it. And it annoyed me every time I opened the door that I couldn't use the handle properly and I just had to pull the door open. And I figured it was fine. I didn't bother fixing it. Then I rented out that flat because I was going traveling. And before I rented it out, I fixed it. I fixed that and I fixed everything else that I'd been ignoring for months. And I remember thinking at the time, why did it take renting this to someone else for me to do that? Why wasn't I worth doing it for? And I actually think a lot of us do this. We tolerate things in our own homes that we would never accept anywhere else. The flickering light bulb, the uncomfortable sofa, the bedroom that never really feels quite homey or comfortable. And we just adapt around them and delay making them nice. But you probably spend more time in your home than anywhere else. And if that is a backdrop to almost everything, like how you sleep, how you work, how you decompress, the quality of that environment has a direct impact on how you feel every single day. The upgrades don't have to be big at all, like better lighting, warm rather than harsh overhead lights, plants, which have been shown in multiple studies to reduce stress and improve mood, a proper workspace if you're working from home. I upgraded to a much larger monitor. I was working from my laptop for God knows how long. And this monitor has just made working so much more productive. So I cannot recommend this enough, upgrading your workspace and especially the rooms that you spend most of the time in. Number 6, your passions and interests. This is probably it sounds like a bit of a weird one, but there is a version of financial success that looks great on paper and feels completely empty in real life. And that version is good salary, ticking the boxes, no idea what you actually enjoy anymore because you spend most of your time just working. And I think hobbies and interests are one of the most underrated things that someone could spend on because it's one of the first things that people drop when they get busy. But there is a study that found that people who regularly engage in leisure activities had significantly lower levels of negative effect of depression and stress. That's not marginally lower, it's significantly lower. And even beyond the research, there is something important about having a part of your life that exists entirely outside of your work and your productivity. Something you do purely because you enjoy it, because you're good at it, because it helps you escape from the mundane day to day. So once you have some disposable income, invest in that properly. And I'm not just saying in the hobby itself, but also in the equipment, the lessons, the community around it. If you're running, get properly fitted shoes. If you're really like cooking, take a course. If you want to get into golf, get the lessons. Whatever it is, take it seriously. For me, recently, this has been swimming. So I spend some of my disposable income on everything swimming related. And for me, it's such a nice way to get out of my day-to-day and not have any technology around me, not be around anyone, and just do my own thing for a bit. It's made such a difference on my day-to-day. So highly, highly recommend this. And figuring out what your hobby or your interest is and then going all in and spending on that thing to make it even more enjoyable for you. I know a lot of people watching this are really good at their job and love working, but you are not just your job. Your passions and interests are a huge part of what makes life feel like yours. Right, number 7, convenience, not just for you, but also for your family. There is a type of stress that doesn't show up in any productivity framework, and it is the mental load of running a household. The admin, the logistics, the invisible list of things that need doing that lives permanently at the back of your mind. And if you have a family, a partner, children, parents you support, that mental load, it multiplies. So once you have disposable income, spending money to reduce that load is one of the most direct investments you can make in your home life. Examples of this could be a cleaner, a meal delivery service on a busy weeknight, paying for someone to do the garden, having someone do the laundry and drop it off. All these tasks that add up and can really drain not only you, but your relationships. There is also something worth saying about the people in your family who need support, whether that is helping a parent with something they're struggling with or taking something off a partner's plate. Money spent reducing friction in the lives of people you love has a return that is very hard to quantify, but it's very easy to feel. Right, number 8, and that is your mental and physical fitness. Okay, so I have very little natural discipline when it comes to going to the gym. I find it the most boring thing to do, and I know that about myself. So rather than pretending I would just figure it out, for a short while, I hired a personal trainer. It was one of the first things that I hired when I got money. And when I did my spending tracker last year, which I'll link below as well, it's completely free, it was my single biggest discretionary spend. And I do not regret a penny of it. And I'm not saying a personal trainer is the only way to get fit, but because I knew without that accountability, I simply would not show up. When I used to work in banking, it was a lot more easier for me to just go to the gym on my way home from work. But now it's really hard for me to get out of my office to go to do a workout. And that investment forced the habit. And once that habit was there, everything else improved. It literally compounds into everything. Maybe for you, your version of this is actually paying for a nice subscription that makes you more motivated to work out, or a nice gym set that motivates you to work out, or something like that. And when it comes to the mental health side, therapy, coaching, even a consistent journaling practice, these are the most underrated and most deferred upgrades on this entire list. It's the internal work, which is understanding how you make decisions, what drives your behavior, what is really going on underneath the surface. Most people will defer this part of their upgrade indefinitely because it feels less tangible than getting a gym membership. But the return on this is huge. And again, if you have insurance with work, a lot of companies do provide that through your work insurance as well. That is what I did, so it's worth checking if that's included. This video is sponsored by Shopify. I created my first business on Shopify, and what surprised me was how quick it was to get started. I didn't have to figure everything out from scratch. It was all in one place. And honestly, that's what gave me the confidence to actually get started in the first place, because Shopify takes all the guesswork out and your products get discovered everywhere people are already shopping. Google, YouTube, TikTok, even ChatGPT. And when someone's ready to buy, Shop Pay makes checkout one click, which means fewer abandoned carts and more completed sales. And for everything you're not an expert in, the analytics, the copy, the promotions, Shopify's AI co-founder sidekick handles it. So you can focus on the fun stuff, the creative stuff, the stuff you actually started a business to do. So if you've been sitting on an idea, go to shopify.com/Nischa to start your free trial today. That's shopify.com/Nischa. Then you have your skills. So once you have some disposable income, one of the smartest places to put it is back into yourself, specifically into skills that directly increase your earning potential. And this isn't about going and doing another degree, but in fact, the most valuable upgrades are like certifications, technical training, courses that have a clear and direct line to either a higher salary or a better job or a better industry. And so the way I like to think about this, and a good rule of thumb, is if this skill you're investing in will pay for itself within 1 or 2 years, it is worth it. A course on AI, a financial modeling certification, these are things that can add 10,000, 20,000 to your annual salary really quickly. So the ROI on that is obvious. But there is also a second category of skills worth investing in that people tend to overlook, and that is the ones that make you better at your existing job without necessarily changing your title. So I'm talking about public speaking courses, negotiation training, management skills. These are the things that determine very often whether you're going to get promoted, whether you're going to get that pay rise, whether you're going to get taken seriously in that room. So the way I would think about this is ask myself, what is the one skill gap that is currently costing me the most or stopping me from getting to the amount I want to earn? And then go and spend money to go and close that gap. Right. And finally, number 10, which is your wardrobe. And you're probably thinking that's rich for someone who always wears black and always wears the same thing. But I don't actually, outside of YouTube. I've definitely spent money to upgrade this part of my life. And I think there is a guilt that comes with spending money on yourself, especially on clothes, like it somehow is frivolous or a bit vain, but the research actually doesn't support that. A study published found that satisfaction with clothing choices was actually a significant predictor of overall well-being. And the research shows that when you wear clothes that fit well, that make you feel confident, that makes your posture improve, you actually feel more self-assured. And there's actually a term for it. It's called enclothed cognition. It's the idea that what you wear directly changes how you think, how you carry yourself, how you show up. And I've definitely noticed this in my own life. If I'm going somewhere where the way I carry myself makes a difference, I consciously make an effort to wear something that I know will make me feel more confident. And this isn't about buying designer or dressing to impress anyone else. It's literally about wearing things that make you feel better when you walk out the door in the morning. Once you can afford to buy things you genuinely love wearing, do it. You don't really need anyone else's permission to tell you what you can and can't buy. I think there is a version of financial success that people chase for years and arrive at feeling surprisingly empty. The number is there. The life doesn't feel that different. And that is usually because the money went into the right accounts, maybe, but never went into the right places. Whether that's sleep, health, your home, your passions, the people you love, your sense of who you are outside of work. These aren't luxuries to consider when everything else is sorted and you're living your retired life. They are the point. You work hard for money, and at some point it has to start working for your life. So that is what this list is really about. If you want to understand the financial foundations, I have covered all of that on this channel as well. I will leave one of the best videos that everyone raves on about right here. If you found this useful, let me know in the comments which one you're going to upgrade first as well. And thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.